Marcus Jefferson wasn't rich, but he was steady. The kind of man who believed in small steps, steady hands, steady mind, steady faith. 4 or 5 straight years, every Friday after work, he stopped by the small credit union on Auburn Avenue and deposited a portion of his paycheck into a simple savings account. Then, every few months, he'd withdraw the cash, fold it neatly into a brown envelope, and hide it in the back of his closet, behind his Sunday suits. That envelope had a label written in bold black marker, "For my kid's future." It wasn't much, about $20,000 total, but it represented dreams. Malik, his 12-year-old son, wanted to study robotics. Zoe, his little girl, loved painting and said she wanted to be an artist teacher. Marcus had promised both that their education would never be a burden. "Daddy, you mean we won't need loans like Cousin TJ?" Zoe once asked, eyes wide. Marcus smiled. "No, baby. Daddy's making sure of that." Tasha, his wife of 14 years, used to tease him about it. "You still hiding money in envelopes like we live in 1995? He'd chuckle. "Better envelopes than bad luck with banks. I trust what I can touch." They lived comfortably. Nothing fancy, but decent. Marcus worked maintenance at the city hospital, and Tasha ran a small online boutique. Together, they managed life's ups and downs, until one Friday evening changed everything. Marcus went into the closet, moved his jacket, and reached for the envelope. His hand brushed against empty air. He frowned, moved things around. Nothing. He froze, his heart pounding. He searched again, slowly this time, pushing hangers aside, bending down to look under the shoes. Still nothing. By the time Tasha got home from brunch with her friends, Marcus was sitting on the edge of the bed, holding the empty drawer like a man staring at a ghost. "Tasha," he said quietly, "where's the envelope?" She blinked, confused. "What envelope?" "The one in the closet. The kids' education fund." The air in the room thickened. Tasha's smile faded. She looked down, then up again. "Marcus, I took it." For a moment, he just stared at her, his voice caught in his throat. "You what?" She tried to explain quickly. "I was going to tell you. How much did you take?" "All of it." Marcus felt dizzy. He sat down, rubbing his forehead. "Tasha, that's our kid's future. You took every dollar." Tasha's eyes filled with tears. "It's not what you think. I didn't waste it. I invested it." "Invested?" Marcus said, his voice rising. "In what? Who asked you to?" "In us," she shouted. "In something that could make us more money. My cousin Reggie started a business, beauty products, and I believed in him." Marcus laughed bitterly. "Reggie? The same guy who borrowed your car and disappeared for 2 weeks? You gave him the kids' money." "He said it was guaranteed," she whispered. He stood up slowly, trembling. "You gambled our children's dreams because some fool said the word investment? You didn't even ask me." Tasha started crying. "I wanted to do something right for once. You always make me feel like I don't contribute enough." Marcus shook his head, pain replacing anger. "No, Tasha. I never made you feel that way. You did this to yourself." That night, the Jefferson home was silent. Marcus ate alone. Tasha tried to talk, but he didn't answer. He went to bed early, staring at the ceiling while she cried softly beside him. The next morning, she tried to touch his hand. "Marcus, please, I'll fix this." He turned away. "You can't fix trust." Later that afternoon, Malik came into the kitchen. "Mom, why's Dad so mad?" She forced a weak smile. "It's adult stuff, baby. Don't worry." But worry he did. The house felt colder. Marcus began sleeping on the couch, and every time he looked at his children, a sting of failure burned in his chest. When he went to work, he couldn't concentrate. At lunch, his friend Devin noticed. "Yo, man, you look like you seen a ghost," Devin said. Marcus sighed. "I think my marriage just cracked." Devin frowned. "You gonna leave?" Marcus shook his head. I don't know yet. I just don't recognize her anymore. Weeks later, reality hit harder. Malik's private school sent a letter. Tuition was due in 2 weeks. Marcus folded the letter neatly and laid it on the table in front of Tasha. You tell me how to pay this now, he said quietly. She looked down. Marcus, I'll find a way. He laughed bitterly. You can't even find Reggie's number now, can you? She broke down crying. He said the business was real. He said. Marcus slammed his fist on the table. Stop saying what he said. I told you to stay away from those get-rich schemes. He walked out, leaving her sobbing. That night, he packed a small bag and left for his brother's place. Leon Jefferson was the kind of older brother who always knew when to listen. When Marcus arrived, he didn't ask questions at first. He just poured him a beer and waited. She took everything, man, Marcus finally said. All my savings. The kid's future. Leon sighed. You serious? Every dollar. Damn. They sat in silence for a moment. Leon finally said, You got 2 choices. Let this destroy your marriage, or make it teach you both something. Marcus frowned. You sound like Pastor Rhonda. Leon chuckled. Man, you don't need a pastor to tell you forgiveness is cheaper than divorce. Marcus stared at the floor. She risked everything for pride. Leon leaned forward. And maybe she learned the hard way. Let her show it. Don't shut the door yet. Marcus nodded slowly. But the hurt still burned. Back home, Tasha barely ate. She'd call Reggie every day, but his number went straight to voicemail. When Zoe asked, Mom, can I get new paints for school? She swallowed hard and said, Maybe next week. At night, she'd sit in the kids' room, watching them sleep. Lord, I messed up, she whispered. I just wanted to help. She wrote Marcus a letter, long and tear-stained. She placed it on his pillow, hoping he'd read it when he came home. Marcus returned 2 days later to grab some clothes. The house was quiet, except for the ticking wall clock. He saw the letter and hesitated before picking it up. Marcus, I can't sleep knowing I've hurt you and our children. I thought I was doing something smart, but I acted out of pride and fear. I wanted to feel equal, to bring something to the table. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I promise I'll earn it. I'll find a way to get that money back, even if it takes years. Marcus read it twice. He didn't cry, but his eyes softened. For the first time, anger gave way to sorrow. He picked up his phone and called her. Tasha, he said softly, we need to talk. They met at a small diner near her mother's old neighborhood. Marcus stirred his coffee in silence while Tasha kept her hands folded. I'm not here to fight, he began. I just need to understand. Why didn't you tell me? I was scared, she said honestly. You always take care of everything. I just wanted to prove I could too. He nodded slowly. You don't prove love with risks. You prove it with trust. Her eyes filled with tears. I know. I've learned my lesson the hardest way. He sighed. All right. Then let's see how you fix it. Marcus set boundaries. You'll get a part-time job. Every cent you earn goes back into that fund. And no more Reggie or side hustles without my knowledge. Tasha nodded quickly. Yes, I'll do it. She got a job at a local salon, cleaning and assisting stylists. It was humbling, but she stuck with it. Marcus watched quietly, still distant but observing her effort. Over time, he saw sincerity in her eyes. She'd come home tired, hands rough, but never complained. One evening, Malik overheard them talking in the kitchen. He walked in quietly. Dad, did Mom lose the college money? They both froze. Marcus started to explain, but Tasha stopped him. Yes, baby. I made a mistake. But I'm fixing it. Malik looked at her for a long time, then said softly, I believe you, Mom. It broke her completely. She hugged him tightly, crying on his shoulder. Months turned into a year. Tasha took on more hours at the salon and even started making wigs on the side. Marcus began helping her manage the income and save every bit. When she handed him her first $1,000, she said, "It's not much, but it's real this time." He smiled faintly. "It's not about the amount. It's about effort." That night, they ate dinner together for the first time in months without tension. A year later, Reggie showed up at their door. He looked rough, clothes wrinkled, eyes tired. "Tasha, I'm sorry," he muttered. "The business fell apart. I was wrong." Marcus stood beside her, arms folded. "You think sorry brings back my kids' savings?" "No," Reggie said. "But I came to tell the truth. You weren't the only one I scammed. I'm turning myself in." Tasha's tears flowed freely. Marcus sighed. "Then I hope you really mean it." Reggie nodded and left quietly. On Malik's 13th birthday, Marcus invited the whole family for dinner. After cake, Tasha handed Marcus an envelope. Inside were bank slips, receipts, and a note. "Fully restored. Every dollar returned." Marcus looked up, eyes soft. "You did it." She smiled through tears. "No, we did it." Malik grinned. "So, college is still happening?" Marcus laughed. "You better keep those grades up, boy." Everyone laughed, and for the first time in a long while, peace sat at that table. A year later, Marcus stood before a men's fellowship at church. He shared his story honestly. "Brothers," he said, "my wife took the money I saved for my kids' education. I thought it was the end of us. But God showed me, money can be replaced, but a humble heart can't. Forgiveness rebuilt what anger would have destroyed." When he finished, the men stood and clapped. In the front row, Tasha wiped a tear, smiling proudly. Later that night, she whispered, "You really forgave me, didn't you?" He smiled. "I didn't just forgive you. I chose us again." 3 years later, Malik was accepted into Georgia Tech. Zoe got a scholarship for art school. On the night they left for college, Marcus stood beside Tasha on the porch. "You see," he said softly, "they made it." Tasha nodded, leaning on his shoulder. "And so did we." He looked at her with a warm smile. "I guess the best investment wasn't money after all. It was faith." They stood quietly under the porch light, hand in hand, watching their children's taillights fade down the street, proud of what forgiveness had rebuilt. Life after the repayment felt different, but not instantly perfect. Old habits and old doubts still nudged at them like stray cats at the back door. Marcus found himself checking the closet twice a week just to reassure himself. Tasha would catch him and roll her eyes, then slip his hand into hers like they were conspirators in something softer. One afternoon, Marcus came home with news from work. The hospital was restructuring, and he might face reduced hours in a few months. He said it like a man reading the weather, calm, factual, yet Tasha saw the worry in his jaw. "That's going to affect the fund," she said quietly. Marcus sighed. "We'll manage. We always do." But management meant adjustments. Tasha began pulling extra shifts, taking new wig orders, cutting corners where she could. Marcus picked up extra maintenance calls on weekends. Both of them carried a low-grade fatigue, not the kind that steals your smile, but the kind that makes small things feel heavy. One evening, a well-meaning neighbor, Mrs. Carter, stopped by with a casserole and an idea. "You all ever thought about doing a GoFundMe? People in the church would support you." She watched Marcus and Tasha, eyes kind. Marcus frowned. "I don't know about asking for money." Tasha put a hand on his arm. "Maybe it's not about charity. Maybe it's support, community helping community." Marcus studied her face. He remembered nights she'd stayed up making dolls for Zoe's school sale, the way she'd come home exhausted and still tuck the kids in. He remembered the envelope, the mistake, and the rebuilding. He finally nodded. "Okay, let's try it." They set up a small campaign, not for pity but to share their story, honest, not shameful. The responses were slow but steady. Small donations came in from old co-workers, church members, and even Malik's robotics teacher who sent a note about encouragement rather than cash. The campaign didn't erase the problem, but it started a new truth. It's okay to be human and to accept help when you're trying to be better. The summer after Malik's 13th birthday, Marcus was working a late shift when an older man with soft gray hair stopped him in the hospital parking lot. "You Marcus Jefferson?" the man asked. Marcus wiped his hands on his pants. "Yes, sir." The man extended a folded envelope. "My grandson goes to your son's school. He wanted to help. This is for college. No strings. Just keep doing what you're doing." Marcus blinked, feeling the weight of 1,000 small mercies. Inside the envelope were $500, not a fortune, but a gesture that tugged at something inside him. He looked up, wanting to say thank you, but the man had already walked away, like a guardian who didn't want to be noticed. When Marcus told Tasha later that night, she cried quietly, tears of relief and the kind that come when pride softens. "See," she whispered, "people care. We aren't alone." That small kindness sparked something. Tasha began volunteering at the community center's financial literacy class. She shared her mistake and what she'd learned with other women, turning shame into testimony. Marcus, in turn, started a small repair night at the church where he taught teenagers simple maintenance skills, a way to give them confidence but also a place to talk about responsibility and choices. Their life became quieter but richer, anchored by small acts of grace and the humility of two people who chose to grow where they'd been broken. It was March when a thin envelope arrived from Marcus's mother in Greenville. She wrote in looping script, telling them about a cousin's wedding and how the family missed their laughter at church. In the letter, she tucked a small scrap of paper with a prayer, "The Lord repairs what we cannot." Marcus read it at the kitchen table while Malik sketched robot parts and Zoe painted watercolors. He felt a warmth like sun through the blinds. He folded the paper and put it in his wallet next to an old photo of the kids when Zoe was 3 and Malik was just starting to ride a bike. That weekend the Jefferson family drove down to Greenville for Sunday service. Marcus's mother hugged Tasha tightly, whispering, "Child, we all make mistakes. It's how we rise that matters." The Sunday potluck after service became a celebration of ordinary people who'd learned a little more about mercy. On the way home, Zoe leaned across the back seat and said, "Mom, thank you for working so hard." Malik nodded, eyes bright. Marcus glanced at Tasha and saw not a woman defined by one mistake, but by a pattern of trying, each day a small stitch sewing them closer. They rode home feeling steadier, like a boat riding after a storm. 2 years after the envelope disappeared, the Jeffersons' financial picture had changed again. Marcus's hours stabilized, Tasha's side business had gained loyal customers, and the small community campaign had collected modest funds that were slowly padded by new savings habits. They still weren't wealthy, but they were intentional. Marcus and Tasha sat at the kitchen table one night with a stack of college brochures, Georgia State, Clark Atlanta, Georgia Tech, and forms that felt larger than paper. Applications, FAFSA deadlines, scholarship essays. Malik, now 16, watched them with a mixture of nerves and quiet pride. "I applied for that robotics program at Tech," he said. "They have a summer lab." Marcus smiled so wide it softened years of worry. "You did? That's big, son." Zoe, with bright eyes and a paint-splattered apron, added, "I want to apply for that art scholarship, too. I can do both, art and teach." They filled out forms, typed essays, and edited scholarship applications. Tasha proofread Malik's personal statement and laughed at his nerdy jokes. Marcus helped Zoe plan a portfolio. Their teamwork in this small moment felt like a seal. They had weathered the breach and were building again, but this time with more honesty and shared responsibility. When they mailed Malik's application to Tech, Marcus felt a trembling joy. The envelope in the closet had become a memory that taught them how to save, how to ask for help, and how to steward even when they'd been reckless before. He realized the real education for his kids had been learning resilience, accountability, and family, lessons that might matter more than any tuition. Graduation week came and went like a bright, fast comet. Malik earned a small academic scholarship and got accepted to a summer pre-college program that would boost his chances. Zoe received a regional art award and a portfolio invite to a local arts college. The house buzzed with packing lists, last-minute purchases, and the bittersweet joy of letting go. On the morning they left, The Jeffersons stood on the porch under a sky the color of promise. Marcus carried Malik's duffel, and Tasha balanced Zoe's paint case. The kids hugged them both like it was both a thanks and a promise. "You ready?" Marcus asked Malik, voice thick. Malik smiled and nodded. "We're ready." Tasha looked at Marcus, eyes shining. For a moment, everything that had passed between them, rage, sorrow, long nights, small victories, condensed into a single breath. "We did it," she whispered. Marcus wrapped an arm around her. "We did. Not because of one envelope, but because we chose each other after it all." They watched the taillights fade as the kids' car turned onto the highway. The house felt unexpectedly large and quiet, but Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: steady peace. Later, they sat at the kitchen table with 2 mugs of tea. Marcus reached across the table and took Tasha's hand. "Thank you," he said simply. She squeezed his fingers and smiled, the kind that reaches the eyes. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Outside, the neighborhood hummed softly. Lawnmowers, distant music, life moving forward. Inside, 2 people who had nearly lost everything sat together and planned for what came next. Tighter budgets, more honest conversations, family nights that mattered more than paydays. They had lost money once. But they had gained something else: a deeper faith in one another, a community that had helped stitch them back together, and kids who'd grown watching their parents return from a hard place. That, Marcus thought, was a real kind of fortune.